Hello everyone, and thanks for joining me today for our Smartsheet Forms Best Practices webinar. Today we're going to learn best practices for structuring your Smartsheet and Smartsheet forms for an effective intake process. In addition to creating forms, we'll also focus on how to best work with the information in our sheets, including automation to stay on top of incoming requests and formulas and dashboards to understand sheet data. I'm going to be using a sheet I've created to track my department's ongoing preventative maintenance request. I'd like to provide employees across my department with the ability to contribute rows to my sheet, but not to have access to the sheet I'm working in. I can do this by creating a Smartsheet form at the top of our page. Before we dive into the form creation though, I want to make sure my sheet is set up to capture the information that I'm going to be requesting from those completing my form. Each column that I have in my sheet can be used as a form question. I'll be using this sheet to capture data related to maintenance requests and also to track status, cost, and assignments across my team. A best practice that I have is to color code my sheet so I can clearly differentiate between data that was submitted through the form and columns my team updates as we work through these maintenance requests. Here, I'm going to select the action, type, and description columns and color them yellow to clearly differentiate between the information that's submitted through the form and the rest of the columns, which we'll be using to capture the status, assignment, and dates and budget for all of these maintenance requests. I also want to make sure I'm capturing the identity of the requester, so I'm going to add an additional column to my sheet called Created By. To do this, I could right-click, insert a new column, left or right, and then go down to the very bottom where we have our auto number system column. These are a great way to capture data through your form submission that Smartsheet is generating for you. And as you can see here, you can have Smartsheet automatically number your rows or capture the date when a row is modified, the date when a row was submitted, which is when your form was completed, or who modified or who created each row. I'm going to add the Created By column so I can easily capture who submitted each row, and then I'm actually going to come in here and add one more so I can capture the date that each row was submitted. Both of these are a best practice. Anytime that I have submissions being added to my sheet through a form, I need to know who added a row or when they added it. I like to keep these on the right side of the sheet so that information is accessible, but I can still focus on what's most important. Now that I've set up my sheet and have the structure to capture all of the information I need, let's start building my form. I can go up to Forms at the top here, and you'll see that I already have a form created, but let's start from scratch instead. As a starting point, Smartsheet translates every column in my sheet into a form question. You can see all of the columns in my sheet as I scroll up and down. If this is all I need for my form, I can just click Save and Preview. And you'll see I have a complete functioning form. Most times though, I'm going to want to customize further by adding or removing form questions, rearranging them, making certain fields required, or even customizing the name of the fields on my form. Here, let's start by removing a lot of the fields that I'll want to use to track these maintenance requests, but I don't need to ask about in my form. That's going to be everything except action, type, and description. So I'll continue and remove all of these additional fields. If I accidentally remove a field and I want to add it back, or even if I want to add a brand new column to my sheet, or add the option to include attachments when submitting the form, I can go to the Add Field section. By including the option to upload attachments, I'm allowing employees to add images and other files as an attachment in the row for each of their submissions. Now that we've removed the rest of the columns, I'm going to make sure that all three of these fields are required by selecting the required field checkmark for each of these. For the description question, I'm also going to make this a larger field to encourage more information so we don't have to reach out to requesters with additional questions. You'll see that the name of my form takes on the name of the sheet, but here I can add something a little bit more user-friendly, like New Preventative Maintenance Requests. I can also rename some of my fields and continue to make this more user-friendly. For example, even though my column is named Action, I can rename this column just in my form into something that makes a little more sense. I'm going to call this Maintenance Issue. That way, when an employee looks at my form, they know I want them to add the maintenance issue, but back in my sheet, it's in my action column, making it easier for my team to work on each of these issues and understand the layout of the sheet. For longer forms, I like to add section dividers as well as even additional text to organize my form and provide instructions. I can scroll down in the Add Field section to grab dividers and add them to my form, or add additional headings and descriptions, and this is really great if you have a lot of questions, maybe different sections to your form, and it helps to keep your sections organized. The structure of our form is now complete, and I'd like to preview to make sure I didn't miss anything important. There are still a few customizations that I'd like to make to ensure that requesters can use my form effectively. First, I'd like to make sure that users can submit this form multiple times. So we'll head over to Form Options, and here I'm going to select the option that says Reload the same form for another entry. In other words, if they submit a request using my form, the form reloads completely blank so they can continue to add requests. Here, I can also customize my confirmation message and even automate a confirmation email anytime that this form is submitted. I'd also like to change the style of my form, which is a new addition to Smartsheet. Here, I can select the modern layout option, classic, or a completely plain layout, which has less branding on it. Lastly, Smartsheet allows me to define who can complete my form. If I'm creating a form I want to be accessible by an unknown audience, I'll select anyone with the link. This is great if you're creating a form that collects submissions outside of your company, from an audience that doesn't use Smartsheet yet, or just a form where you don't want to capture who is completing your form, like an anonymous survey. If you want to make sure form submissions are capturing the email address of the requester, select this second option that requires them to log into Smartsheet before they're able to complete your form. Now that my form is ready, I want to share it with my department, and there's several different ways that I can do this. First, let's make sure we save all of these changes we've made. Then I can go into my settings section where it says More and choose how I'm going to share. Most people share their forms simply by copying the URL here and sharing it just like a regular website. I can send this by email, by chat, post it for sharing on social media, or even added to a dashboard. Under More, you've got options that allow you to send this URL directly to an email address out of Smartsheet, or even to get an embed code to embed this directly into your website. We have a lot of customers who've used Smartsheet forms to gather customer support tickets, surveys, or even event registrations by embedding a Smartsheet form into the website their customers are already visiting. If I need to make any additional changes to my form, I can click Edit right here, or we can take a look at this form and go through a practice submission. So let's say I have a new task. This is going to be an interior task, and then I can add a description. Here I can attach any files, so if I'm taking a picture of a maintenance request, or if I need to provide a file to document what I'm requesting, this is a great place to add that, as it'll go directly into my sheet as well. As the requester, I can also get a copy of any of the information that I've submitted through this form and then submit. You'll see, because I told Smartsheet I would like users to be able to submit multiple requests, I've got a thank you message, and I can continue to submit additional maintenance requests using the same form. I can request my Smartsheet for us to be able to see the new request that's been added towards the bottom of my sheet here. Now that I've created my sheet, customized my form, and shared it throughout my department, requests will be added to my sheet without any additional steps needed from me. There are, however, some additional best practices I can incorporate here to make sure my day-to-day working in this sheet is more efficient. Since maintenance requests are unpredictable, I don't want to spend a lot of my time checking this sheet throughout the day to make sure I don't miss a request. I'd rather have Smartsheet notify me anytime a new row is added, saves me a lot of time, and gets my attention exactly when it's needed. To do this, I'm going to come up to Automation, which is where I can start setting up rules for Smartsheet to notify me or others of important activity in my sheet. You'll see there's a lot of different workflows we can incorporate, and if this is an area that you'd like to dive in deeper, we actually have additional webinars all about workflows. Today, I want to focus on creating a rule that's going to notify me anytime a new submission is added to my sheet using a Smartsheet form. To do this, I'm going to select Alert Someone. A trigger is what action needs to happen in your sheet to kick off this automation. And as I mentioned, what I want to do here is anytime that a row is added to my sheet, I want Smartsheet to notify me. And Smartsheet already has my name filled in here. I do have the option to notify others as well, but since this is my team and I'm the manager, I'm going to only send these alerts to myself to keep the noise down and make sure people are getting notifications about just the most important things that are taking place. I'm going to title my workflow here and say New Maintenance Request. And I can even customize the message that is sent anytime that a row is added to my sheet. I'm going to go ahead and click Save. When my new automation is triggered, I'm going to receive notifications here in the top right. I can also define how I want to be notified, whether it's by email, push notification, or even Slack or chatbot by heading over to the Personal Settings section and selecting Notifications. Anytime that I'm going to receive an alert about a new maintenance request, I'm going to review the request, then assign a member of my team to own it to resolution. I'd like to save myself time here as well, so I'm going to automate another action. This time, I'm going to ask Smartsheet to notify the assigned to person anytime they are assigned a task. This way, I can ensure that I'm not spending time letting people know when they have new work to do, but I can also make sure that everyone is notified and aware of the work on their plate. I'm going to power this new automation by making sure that my assigned to column is set up as a contactless column, and I can make sure of that by going to my column properties and selecting Contact List. We can head back to the automation menu and select Alert Someone again to set up this new rule. We're going to tell Smartsheet anytime that rows are changed, and specifically anytime our assigned to column changes to any value. Let's make sure that we're notifying contacts in the assigned to column. Now, this is a great way to create a single rule that's very dynamic because I'm telling Smartsheet only notify the person that's being assigned a new task that they have a new task assigned to them. And I'm going to title this New Task Assignment. Just like before, I can customize my message so I can be more specific here. And anytime I assign a task to someone on my team, Smartsheet will take care of the notification step for me, and I can rest assured without any extra work that that person knows I've just assigned a new maintenance request for them to complete. You'll see I already had a couple rules established in this sheet, and this should give you an idea of how you can continue to use automation to own parts of your intake process. In addition to the 2 rules that we've set up, I have an alert that's going to send out anytime that a task changes to red and let me know so I can take care of it right away and make sure nothing remains at risk. I also have a recurring scheduled reminder to the employees assigned to tasks, reminding them of those tasks and making sure everything is getting done on time. If you'd like to dive deeper into some of this automation, we do have a webinar dedicated to the topic, and I can show you where all of our webinars are towards the end of our demo here today. Now, to review what we've done so far, we've created a form to intake information easily from users, saving us a lot of manual work collecting requests through an alternate method like email. We've also set up automation so Smartsheet can own parts of our process and ensure the right people are aware of important information at the right time. This will keep my team on track and ensure maintenance requests are being managed as efficiently as possible, and we're not spending a lot of time just babysitting these maintenance requests from one step to the next. In addition to managing these incoming requests, I want to be able to understand the work my team is doing and also easily report status to the rest of my department. I'll start by using Sheet Summary to capture important information about the work being managed in this sheet. To locate Sheet Summary, navigate to the right rail of your Smartsheet and select the Sheet Summary button. Here I can capture high-level data, provide instructions, use symbols, hyperlinks, images, and of course, formulas to analyze the data in my sheet. You'll see I already have some of this completed, and this is going to give me a count of the status of all of my tasks, the spend according to that status and dates, and I want to add a couple new fields to also capture how many tasks are assigned to each of the people on my team according to this assigned to column. To do this, I can select New Field. I'm going to name this Kirk's Tasks and click OK. And here I can either add information simply by typing it, or I can start typing in a formula just like I would in my sheet itself. I'm going to start writing a COUNTIF formula, and this is going to capture how many times in my assigned to column Kirk is assigned a task. This is going to count 5 tasks, and I can add a couple new fields for the rest of my team as well. So here I'm going to call this Lori's tasks, and instead of rewriting that entire formula, I'm going to go ahead and just copy it and simply change the name. So I'm going to turn this from Kirk to Lori. Lastly, I want to add a field for June as well. And let's go ahead and paste our formula one more time and change this to say June Taylor. Now you can see this is really quick to be able to add to our sheet summary, and it makes critical information easily available. Once you have an intake process set up, you're going to have a lot of information coming at you, a lot of work that you need to manage. Sheet summary is a great place to understand that work. So understand what's going on, understand the costs, the assignments, the workload, and other critical information. I prefer to have all of this information in my sheet summary because it's all located in one place. I can work directly in my sheet, and I can open or close my sheet summary anytime to get the information that I need. Another method for capturing data like we're doing in Sheet Summary is to create a separate sheet and use cross-sheet formulas to capture these important metrics. So you're going to use the same types of formulas, you're just going to keep it in a separate sheet versus the Sheet Summary. And either of these are perfectly fine. They give you the same type of information, and this information can all be surfaced in a Smartsheet report or dashboard. I already have a dashboard started here, and I want to make a couple changes and add a few pieces of information to make sure this dashboard can be used as a one-stop shop for all of the information that's important to this maintenance request intake process. Now, to go into the structure of creating your dashboard, I recommend catching up on some webinars that we've hosted in the past, as well as some additional learning resources located in our Learning Center, found by navigating to the question mark in the top right of your sheet. Today, I want to complete a couple items. So what I want to do is add a chart to show how many tasks are assigned to each person on my team, as well as add the form directly into my dashboard. This way, members of my department can open up my dashboard, submit the form, and view the status of their submissions and the work my team is managing all in one place. To add our form, let's actually first open up the sheet we've been working in this whole time and grab that URL that allows us to share the form. Now I can copy this URL, head back to my dashboard, and then I'm going to go ahead and select Edit and add a new widget. And we're going to use the Web Content widget. Web Content widgets are really powerful because they allow you to add videos, maps, Tableau reports, and additional types of content from external web sources. Today we're just going to embed the URL for our form, which I'm going to paste and then click OK. And here you'll see the form that we've created added as a widget into my dashboard. I can then resize this as needed, pick it up and drag it exactly where it needs to go, and you'll see I already had a spot saved for it, and then of course resize it to fit completely into that spot. Now when I save, anyone who visits this dashboard doesn't have to remember where the form is saved because we've added it and it can be completed directly in here. Now, to understand the work that my team is managing, you'll see we already have status counts, so I can know out of all the maintenance requests how many are done, how many are past due, and so on. We're tracking our expenses by interior versus exterior requests, and we've got some reports in here giving me the details that my team is looking for. As I mentioned, I want to add one additional piece of information, and that is to use the data we created where we're tracking how many tasks are assigned to each person. We'll add a chart widget, locate the sheet that the data that we'd like to chart is located in, and then select the part of that sheet that we'd like to visualize. In my case, I want to know how many tasks are assigned per resource, and then Smartsheet's automatically going to generate the best type of chart, and I can of course switch between these options to see which one works better for my data. I'm actually going to stick with the pie chart that was selected. I can come over here and rename or completely remove the title. I'm going to go ahead and name this Tasks by Employee. And then when I'm done, I can click Done. I can resize my chart as needed, pick it up and move it around to the right location, and then of course resize other charts around it to make sure everything fits like I need it to. In this case, let's resize a couple of these items. This also gives me an opportunity to extend my form so we're no longer having to scroll. Now we've created a dashboard that's a one-stop shop for everything related to my maintenance requests and the work that my team is managing. Instead of just capturing requests in a single sheet, we've turned our maintenance list into a streamlined process. Employees can easily submit maintenance requests without needing access to my sheet, keep an eye on their requests in this dashboard, and even understand the workload and spend across the maintenance team through the data and charts that I've included in this dashboard. I do have one last tip to add. Now that we have a dashboard that we can share, I like to go back to the form that we've created, open up our confirmation message. So remember, this is what people see when they actually submit the form, and I'm going to add my dashboard back in here. This way, once they've submitted this new maintenance request, it's not going into a black hole. They can really easily visit this dashboard anytime to check on status, see who's assigned, and see what the progress is on this maintenance request. Now, let's take a moment to review some of the form's best practices we've covered today. From the very beginning, sheet structure is going to drive how your form works because the questions on your form are going to correspond to the columns in your sheet. So having the correct column types, whether you want a symbol column or drop-down column or a date, as well as using system columns, which are populated by Smartsheet to give you information about who and when rows were being added or modified in your sheet. The forms that we create can be customized, so you can indicate required fields, use user-friendly labels, or actually rename questions to make sure your form can be completed effectively, and determine permissions, so who is allowed to complete your form and do they need to sign into their Smartsheet account to be able to do so. Once your form is ready to be shared, you can share it just like any website just by sending the URL through an email, a chat, or posting it. You can even embed your form directly into your company's website or into a dashboard you may have created with Smartsheet. To understand the work being managed by your team, you can use Sheet Summary to capture high-level metrics, use formulas to capture critical data, and then use Smartsheet dashboards to surface and communicate all of this important data to the rest of your company up to leadership and to those that are requesting these maintenance requests so they can keep an eye on the status of their work without needing to email or submit additional requests because of a lack of transparency. The sheets and dashboards used in today's webinar are actually part of a template set that you can download for free on the Smartsheet website. To do so, navigate to our Solution Center by clicking the plus button in the left panel of your Smartsheet and searching for Ongoing Preventative Maintenance. This will give you a dashboard, a couple sheets, and several reports, including the automation and the sheet summary data we looked at today to best manage your work. There are a lot of different use cases for using forms. So as we looked at today, you can use this for maintenance requests, IT requests. Internally at Smartsheet, we use it to request just about anything, all the way from business cards to swag for customers to RSVPing for events. For some of the other topics that we touched on today, for deeper dives into dashboards or automation, I recommend visiting our Learning Center. You can access that at smartsheet.com/learning or catching up on past webinars we've hosted at smartsheet.com/webinars. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.